In this episode of Doc Talk, I'm going to discuss with you the ultimate goal of gear. Hey guys, this is Dr. McFarland and welcome to the channel. It is Monday and that means another episode of Doc Talk, and I have a very important topic I want to discuss with you today. And it's a trend I often see on the forums and other gear pages on different companies' websites. And that is the concept that the gear you have is actually going to make you a better musician. Now, over the years of having different studio gear and guitar gear, the one thing that having that gear showed me was really the lack of experience that I had. So what I want to do in this video is really just go through some positives and negatives of how gear can affect your overall mindset, and maybe look at some warning signs to help you see if you're falling into this trap yourself. So the first thing that we need to look at about gear is, does it make it more convenient? So the reason why you buy an expensive piece of gear, whether it's a guitar or an amplifier or a pedal, because really you want to try and cut down on the amount of work that it takes for you to have a good sound. If you take a crappy pawn shop amp and then you go buy a Mesa Boogie or a Dr. Z or something, you can more than likely guarantee that you're going to get a lot better sound out of that more expensive amplifier than you are out of the cheap amplifier. Now, whether that makes it better or not, that's a very subjective way of thinking, because some people might like the very, very cheap amplifier and they can get some cool sounds out of that. But for the most part, the reason why you're drawn to a more expensive piece of gear is really just for the convenience and, less work that you have to do to get a good sound. And number two is maybe you're chasing a certain sound, right? So if you're following a band that maybe uses the whammy pedal a lot, or they use a certain Marshall amplifier, or they play a certain guitar, well, in order for you to achieve that certain sound, then you need to go out and buy that certain piece of gear. Now, at the end of the day, you can only get so close, because there's a huge factor that you're probably not taking into consideration, and that is the level of experience and playing ability that that certain player or a musician has on the instrument. So if I got an Eddie Van Halen guitar and a 5150 amplifier, I am not going to sound just like Eddie Van Halen. I do not have the chops. I do not have the playing experience that he has. And just by me owning that gear, I'm not going to sound like him. So just keep in mind that when you buy a certain pedal or amplifier or guitar, that you're not instantly going to sound just like the artist that you want to. Because the old saying is pretty much true, that the tone is in your fingers. It's the way you hit the notes, it's the way you bend and strike the strings to play the chords. That's really where the playability and the overall musicianship is going to come from. It's going to come from you and your heart and from your mind, and not so much from the gear. And the third positive thing that you'll get from buying gear is hopefully a better user experience. So when you start turning knobs and dealing with the actual piece of gear itself, hopefully the knobs aren't going to be all scratchy, and they're going to be very smooth, very precise, and the overall feel and experience that you get by using that gear is going to want to make you play even more, and it could potentially make you a better musician overall, just because you do have a better user experience. But if you're using a piece of gear, maybe a guitar that goes out of tune all the time, or maybe you're using an amplifier that is very scratchy sounding and has a lot of weird noises coming out of the speaker, and you're always struggling just to get a better sound from your amp, then you're probably not going to want to play as often, and you're going to get discouraged and you're going to quit, and you're just probably going to blame it on the gear anyway and not really try to push through that struggle and get better as a musician. So there is some kind of merit to owning better gear, because it will give you that better user experience. Alright, so a few negatives of buying gear is really the cost factor. And this can go back to, maybe chasing the sound that we talked about earlier, is maybe you start buying all these pedals or amps just to try and chase a certain sound, and then you realize I'm really not getting anywhere. I'm not getting any closer to the sound that I want. So then you start selling that gear, and maybe you lose money because you're selling it at a discounted rate than what you bought it from. And now you're just going into this vicious cycle of, hey, I'm spending money just to try to chase a sound, but then I'm losing money. So therefore I don't have as much money to buy other gear. So at a certain point, you just need to take a step back and realize the kind of cycle that you're in. Be like, all right, what is actually going to get me closer to my goal of achieving a certain sound? Is it going to be me putting in the hard work of trying to play better? Or is it going to be a matter of, hey, I need maybe just one more piece of gear and then I'll finally have it? And then realize, well, you didn't really have it anyway. So please consider the cost factor when you're looking into buying all this different kinds of gear and what's going to give you the shortest distance from A to B. All right, and then number 5, which is another negative, is you just don't have enough experience playing music, maybe with other people, and growing your chops and growing your abilities to play better, and you're always blaming it on the gear. It's like, oh, that Mesa Boogie amplifier doesn't sound very good, or that Marshall just is not doing it for me. And really at the end of the day, it comes down to you just not having enough experience. So in that case, sometimes it is better just to get something that sounds decent. So maybe you have a little corner in your house that you have a little practice set up that you can go to with a metronome, maybe a small amplifier, maybe like a pedal or two just to get some creative juices flowing. And maybe you just need to sit down and just play. You need to work on your ear training while you're listening to songs. You need to work on transcribing solos. And that's going to get you a lot farther by building your experience versus just going out and buying another piece of gear. And then the last thing that I really want to focus on at the end of this video is a certain piece of gear is not going to make you superior to somebody else. Okay? And that really comes down to, hey, don't be a jerk. I see a lot of people, whether it's on the Helix page or a Headrush page or the gearpage.net, or whether you're a Kemper owner or a Axe Effects owner, just because you've chosen to use a certain piece of gear does not give you the liberty to be a jerk to everybody else. Okay? There are going to be people that have less experience than you, and they're going to come in and ask a question that may be annoying, or that you think, oh, doesn't everybody know this already? Why are people asking these questions? Well, you can't get into that mindset, okay? Just be kind to people, have a little bit of patience with everybody, and just try and be helpful, okay? And if you can't be helpful, then don't say anything at all. It really comes down to you and your experience and your level of knowledge of how to use certain types of gear. And that can be whether you're using analog pedals or an analog amp, or if you're using a digital modeling unit like a Headrush or a Helix or a Kemper or something. All the units these days are great. Okay, you can get all kinds of different sounds, and you can use all kinds of different amps and pedals and effects. It's all a matter of how you use these units to actually make music. All right, if you're a guy out there playing 5 shows a week, and you're constantly using your gear to make money and to make music with, yeah, you want to buy something that's going to stand the test of time and not just break down on you. But at the same time, you can't look down on somebody that's just maybe a closet guitar player in their bedroom and they don't really go out and play all that often, but they still want the same level of experience and some nice gear to play with. All right, so I hope this video made sense to you guys. And if you're in that situation where maybe you're getting a little snooty about, hey, I use this kind of gear, so therefore everyone else is not as good as me, well, just, take my word of advice. Just kind of ease up a little bit. Give people a little bit of patience and just try and be helpful. Okay? So if you've enjoyed this video, then give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe down below to my channel. And one thing that may help you in your journey of music creation and getting to know your gear a little bit better is I have a link down for you in the description, and it's a free PDF. All you have to do is just sign up for my mailing list, and I'll send you the PDF for free. And it is all about 8 tone tips that you can use every single day to get your gear sounding better so you can play more, make more music. I am Dr. McFarland. I will see you in the next video. Keep rocking.